Hello, dear community, and very welcome to our event, Preparing for the Future with Google. My name is Dejan Jovicevic. It's my big pleasure that I can host this event from our studio. I have a statistic that I just read a few weeks ago. We will need to reskill and upskill 80% of our labor force. We'll only be able to migrate, so to say, to attract up to 20% of the talent, and we have to do our homeworks at home. We have to upskill and reskill big amount of our labor force. This is what our event today is all about, and I will kindly ask you and invite you to participate via Slido, to send us questions. We have a very good and distinguished panel with us today, a lot of insights that we can offer, a lot of solutions that we can offer as well, a lot of testimonials as well, or one very interesting testimonial. So I'd like to kindly ask you to ask us questions, and we'll include them into our panel discussion. The panelists of today's day are our Minister of Labor for Austria, Martin Kocher. Minister, very welcome.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Then we have Mahdis Gharaei. She is Operation Officer in a hospital accreditation company and one of the program trainees, so to say, of this program. Hello.
Hi, thank you.
And both of my co-hosts of today's day, we're doing this with Google and Female Factor. We have Mahdis Gharaei here. She's a co-founder and co-CEO of Female Factor. Mahdis, welcome.
Hi.
And last but not least, we have Antlanger-Winter, Country Director of Google Austria. Christine, welcome.
It's great to be here.
Very important topic, very important event, and a lot of input that we have to share with our audience today. Why is Google doing this? What is it about reskilling that you find attractive also for Google?
Yeah, as Google Austria, this is really at the core of what we do here in Austria, because we see the importance of upskilling, of reskilling people across Europe and across the world, but also in Austria. And we want to contribute to this. Together with strong partners like the Female Factor with Mardis, to really bring these necessary skills here and to bring the trainings. We see that trainings that we can provide for free are really powerful to go along with all the education and other education parts here in Austria. It's just something that we need to add on top of that, because I think we're all familiar with the word lifelong learning. So we're in the transition of creating a completely new kind of education experience throughout our lives. So these kind of trainings or certificates that we also support and provide for Austria are really essential, I think, to make this a success for the Austrian economy and for the Austrian society overall. So we started in 2020, we started the Google Zukunftswerkstatt in Austria. So really a program and a platform that delivers a lot of tools and trainings for free in a really broad variety of topics. And last year we started with Google Career Certificates, and the Female Factor is one of our partners, and these Google Career Certificates are really designed for very concrete job skills. So we have 4 different job skills that you can acquire through these trainings. It's IT support, UX design, digital project management, and data analytics. And we see that this is really impactful. So you can do this, you can apply, for example, through our partners, the Female Factor, and you can do these certificates within 6 months, self-paced, and it's a mix of peer group and doing things on your own. You can do it completely remotely, and we've received so much positive feedback, and I'm really proud that we have a graduate here today, Mardis, who did one of the certificates. I'm very much looking forward to hear from you. And yeah, because of this really great success and the impact that we see, we are also extending the program, and we still have some seats free. So I'm very much looking forward to have even more people being interested, because I really believe in the impact of these certificates.
And the impact on the personal career as well. We'll hear this from Mardis. What kind of impact did this have in your career? Is that the wish that you have for any participant in this program?
Yes, that's exactly what we're looking for, right? Because it's not providing trainings for the sake of the trainings. Yeah. We do this because we want to create impact. We want to create impact so that people can really grow in their career, grow in their skills, and in the end, also for employers and for companies. And this is where we have a lot of positive feedback as well, to have people who are who have the skills that companies need for their transformation journey, or for new companies that are being founded in Austria. We have so many really successful startups as well. I think we're on 4th place in Europe with the most unicorns in Austria. And these companies need a lot of people with state-of-the-art skills. And I think this is why it's really essential. And one very important point is we don't want to do this on our own. We can't do this on our own. We want to contribute, but what it really takes is strong partners like the Female Factor, and we also are very in close contact with the government and with other companies to really do this together for Austria. I think that's essential.
Mardis, what is your perspective on the topic? Why is Female Factor doing this? What are you giving away in this program? And also, I think you asked your audience, what are the expectations? What kind of skills are they looking to improve in? Could you give us some insights on that?
Absolutely. Christina already mentioned that we gave away the scholarships together with Google in 4 specific areas. And I mean, Mardis has the experience with digital project management. But for us as the Female Factor, it's important that we give hands-on skills that are relevant, because as we know, higher education that you were part of a couple years ago is not particularly relevant anymore, especially when it comes to the technology sector. So what you learned a year ago or 3 years ago might not be up to speed anymore. And this is a great opportunity to do it in a very flexible way. And as Christina mentioned, it's built for 6 months, but we have Mardis here who finished it in less than a month or 2, I think. So it's really up to you how you include it in your daily work life. And that's what we want to see. We want to see an impact on women's careers especially, and we also want to see them move up in the ladder, so to say. And that's the beauty of it, because it not only impacts her career, her financial independence, she is also kind of a multiplier, because she has an effect on the project she leads in the digital sphere. And the example that we have here with Mardis, and I'd love to hear from her first now, is what it actually meant not only for your career, but for the entire company that she was working at, and hopefully new jobs that were then created.
Mardis, you did the certificate. How was it? What impact did it have on your career and your skill set?
Well, the job that I had already was as a project manager. When I came into that job, I had already been doing a PhD in behavioral medicine and in health psychology in Iceland. But when I moved to Austria, I was transitioning. And so obviously I had to change. I was working then for this hospital accreditation, which was still in medicine, but not in project management. So my skill set was transferable, but once I saw that the Google Scholarship was available for project management, I wanted to get that certification. So I also had those hard skills to prove and to be able to grow and apply this to my project in order to make it scalable, because it's something that I truly do believe in and I want to be successful. And once I was able to have that and bring this to the table, then this was able to grow it in a way that we were able to separate it more and make it be a project that stood more on its own 2 feet. And now we're able to grow the team, and now we're hiring more people in underneath it. And it's separating itself from the company and becoming a standalone thing that is now going to be growing over the next few years. And now I've gone from being the project manager to the operations officer, and will be now in the next year in training, hopefully to become the chief operating officer.
Amazing. So that was a real accelerator for your personal career as well.
Yes, now I will be taking more Coursera classes now for this newer role, and continuing the upskilling, of course. You just lifelong learning, and now more from the Female Factor for leadership, and yeah, just continuing to learn. And
Minister, does this topic of upskilling and reskilling has a strategic relevance for the government as well?
Absolutely. I mean, the point is actually we need on every level initiatives like that, or initiatives on the governmental level, initiatives in many companies, because reskilling, upskilling will be the topic of the next 10 years for sure. At every meeting that that we have as ministers at the European level, this is a topic that we discuss either over lunch or formally, because all, I think, governments in Europe know that the fact that we have a transition in the sector of the technology, but also in terms of the green transition, that takes place quite quickly, but that requires different kinds of skills and competences and different kinds of knowledge, leads us to the conclusion that we need a lot of these initiatives and a lot of money channeled towards reskilling and upskilling. So I think it's really vital to sustain our level of welfare and our level of living. It's also important, I think, to make sure that people don't fear that transition. And all these initiatives, I think, help to get away with the fear that some people have, because it's important that many more people actually take part in these initiatives. So there's a goal that we have in Austria that 62% of our workforce until 2030 participates in a reskilling or upskilling initiative every year. So this may be small initiatives like remote courses, a couple of days, some weekends, but this is the important thing. You shouldn't see that as a chunk where you have weeks of training. That will also be part of it, but it will be also constant, as you said, lifelong learning. And I think it's important to emphasize it should be low-key, access should be easy, and it's nothing that you should fear. It's something that enables you to get better jobs, more interesting jobs, and enables you to grow also personally, actually.
And that's how you designed this program. It's super flexible. So you could do it in 6 months, but you could also take off for a month and finish it much quicker.
Exactly. And I think you mentioned the word access, and I think that's really the crucial part in a lot of topics that we have with reskilling education in general, because it should really have almost no barriers or very low barriers for access. And one is flexibility, right? So flexibility helps that access is much easier. You can do it besides your job, so and then it takes a bit longer probably, as you can't assign so much time in short term, or you just free up time and do it in a very short amount of time. The other thing is creating this access means that we, I think, all have to work together, right? Because so that we can really reach a diverse audience. And that's also part of our program. We assign half of the scholarships that we fund are really targeted to those people who have significant barriers in this labor market or just don't have the equal chances. So, and this is really important because this is also where a lot of potential lies, right? When we're talking about female empowerment and women, right? There is such a huge potential in creating additional tech skills, for example, in our labor market, in our society. And so is other groups that didn't have this easy access to this kind of education, training skills.
Do you have any special programs for women as well? Is that the focus topic as well?
Of course. I mean, this is one of the main focus topics in the Ministry of Labor. Of course, we focus on people that are unemployed at the moment, mainly, not only. There's different programs also for people that are employed, but mainly for people that are unemployed. And there's, of course, a set of programs that are specifically targeted towards women, specifically, of course, in the area of technology, digital change, that should help, of course, also to raise the proportion of women in these jobs, because this is something we still have a problem with. There's also, of course, consulting, so you can get advice, the so-called Frauenberufszentren. I think it's important, and that's one of the things I'm really proud of. We have the target. So luckily, there's fewer unemployed women than unemployed men in Austria. That's in contrast to the European average. In Europe, it's more unemployed women than unemployed men. But we still have the target that we spend more money on unemployed women than on unemployed men. And it should be in excess of 4 percentage points over the proportion of unemployed women on the proportion of the entire population. So that means there's more than 50% spent on unemployed women. In contrast, only 46% of the unemployed are women, actually. And that means that we have a lot of programs that we can fund, actually, especially targeted towards women.
Mardis, you have a lot of also clients that you advise in this and consult in this field. What do you see there? Is there improvement going on in the market? Are these initiatives that Google are doing, that the ministry is talking about, essential for upskilling of women and also for financial independence, as you mentioned?
I mean, the number one request we always get from companies is we're looking for female talent in tech. That is the pain that everyone has. And what we always say is that look at upskilling as an opportunity to make use of the potential you already have in your team. Because if you want to be successful in technology, you don't necessarily need to be an expert in robotics or go into like software development. There's such a broad spectrum of how you can be active in technology. And that's why for us, it's really important to show that you can go into digital project management, you can learn UX design and kind of reskill and add something to your existing portfolio. Because what talents are we looking for? We're not only looking for experts in a specific field, we're looking for those so-called T personalities that have really a breadth of skills. And digital skills come in handy with, we call them so-called power skills, such as communication, collaboration across different teams. These are really important aspects that go hand in hand with digitalization. We are still humans, we're still interacting with this, and it's a mix of things that is necessary.
I think this is a super point. We talked to Johannes Kopf, the boss of the Austrian Arbeitsmarktservice, and he did a survey among 170 Austrian companies, what kind of IT skills do they need? And it was indeed the general digital knowledge that was mainly sought for. And I think these programs, Christina, can address this issue and give the general skill sets to be able to work in different fields.
Exactly, and that's a very important point about these programs. You don't need any prior skills or education. You can do all of these, even IT support, without having any knowledge about IT up front. And that's, I think, such an important part of really creating the scale of people we need for not only those who are the super genius software engineers, we need them as well, but we need a much broader field of digital skills. And that's what our certificates are also designed for. I come back to the topic of access, right? So I think that's really important. That we work on this, because you would need it anywhere. And you were talking, right, it's not about creating people with more skills for IT companies. It's creating or supporting people for any industry with more digital skills. And this is also a very important part on those initiatives that we try to bring to Austria.
Mardis, obviously we have 400 people with us today, maybe even 500 so far, and they're all eager to hear about some learnings that you made in this program. How was it for you? Was it doable? Was it? Were you able to combine it with your life, with your work? How much time did you invest into it? What are your learnings from it?
I think for me, the biggest piece of advice that I would give is to talk with your boss with it. For me, I had talked about it when I had gotten my promotion that I would like to do some certifications. And I think it was the month after that I saw the scholarships being available. And I talked to them about it, like, okay, because I do have a daughter, I'm a single parent. And so I was like, okay, I don't really have a lot of extra time outside of work to be dedicating to trying to learn how to have these extra skills that I would need for this position. And they were very understanding. And I think that a lot of employees today, or employers today, they are very understanding. They know that they want to support these initiatives, and especially if you're taking that step yourself to want to do a better job and finding these opportunities, they're very supportive about you also using the work time to do these kinds of things. And with this, it's very flexible. Like, you have 6 months to do it. For me, it took a little bit more than a month. I did use some evenings, I did use some weekends, I did use some work time. Like, I did it as I needed. But for me, the most important thing that I took from it was there was a lot of hands-on exercises that you needed to do to complete the program. But then I was also able to apply to my current job.
Okay.
And then I was able to really get into it in a much more hands-on way and apply the things I was learning. And then I really saw, like, okay, there's a lot of things that I could use to really, really improve and grow the project and scale it in a way that I hadn't even realized. It opened up so many more potentials to
And that confirms what Minister said. We don't need to think in 3-year master programs anymore.
No.
It's permanent skilling and upskilling that brings us further in the career as well.
Yeah, and I really think that it makes you also more passionate about what you're doing, because then it gives you that extra motivation and drive. You can see that you can really do it even
listening
without.
to her.
Oh, it's so amazing to listen to you, Mardis, really, and also your attitude, how you approach it. But it's really wonderful. I feel so grateful that we can provide this. I had one more point also to the discussion of education. I mean, we also have to face reality that there is so much more and such a broader access to education or know-how or knowledge. I mean, you could just watch a YouTube video about, there is a great Austrian YouTuber, she has a YouTube channel called Tech World with Nana, and she provides developer operations, so DevOps tutorials through YouTube. And you just watch your video, and she has an immense view base from developers and software engineers. Just giving one example.
Yeah.
And I think this is a completely different kind of world that we're going into, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to highlight the point of the certificates, because we need a certain taxonomy so that companies can also evaluate what kind of knowledge is this, not like a 3-year master or 4-year master, but okay, this is the certificate and this is where they've done it, and so I know I can rely on this, and I know what this is all about. And I think that's a huge advantage, actually. It gives so much more flexibility also for employers and, on the other side, for employees.
But one point that I'd like to address as well, you mentioned it, that your employer gives you the opportunity and the free space to do it.
Yeah.
Minister, in Austria, we tend to look to the government and expect the government to solve all our problems. Who is responsible to pursue this upskilling and reskilling? Obviously, you need to set some regulation and you need to set some frameworks. But do you see the companies, the economy as well responsible? You mentioned 62% of workforce will take place in reskilling. You will not be able to do that as government.
No, of course not. No, the main responsibility lies within the companies, of course, and they do it already. Actually, you have to. That's nothing new to many companies. And the government can support it. There are programs. For instance, one of the programs we have in Austria is the Bildungskarenz, the education leave. It's a program that is actually quite generous, and the German government wants to copy it at the moment. It's part of their coalition agreement that they want to introduce something similar. So we have initiatives for those who are employed. We have initiatives for those who are unemployed. But in the end, it's a societal challenge that we have to that we actually have to pursue together. It's the companies that have the main, of course, objective, but then, of course, it's the government, and also, as I mentioned before, those who have to do it and have to want. They have to want to do it, actually. And we have, of course, sometimes in Austria the opinion that whatever somebody who's 50 years old says, I don't have to learn these new things. That's something we really have to cope with in terms of the attitude, because if we don't cope with it, we are not able to fill the positions we need, and we actually will lag behind economically because we don't have enough educated, skilled people, actually, because they have to work until they retire. And of course, things change. I mean, this is 15 years. I mean, probably 20 years ago, saying at an age of 50, I don't have to learn much was possible. That's getting more difficult now, of course.
From a political perspective, can we expect also from employees to take active part and serious part in these programs?
I think most like to, actually. So most really want to. It's also a topic how these are organized, where they are fun. I mean, you said they actually were not fun, but they actually helped you to develop and motivated you further. Actually, I think that's absolutely one of the things. We have to motivate people to learn more. Some people, especially some people that are lower skilled, are a bit demotivated by the education system they experienced in younger years, and I think these kind of motivations have to be brought by the companies, by other programs that we have, and we see once people start doing it, they really like it. I've one program that I just want to talk about briefly for unemployed people. That's the Coderspace that exists in Vienna and in Linz. It's a program where people with very low key access, so you don't have to have any tech background, that are unemployed, can start learning coding, and then after some time, people will either go to a real training, or they finish this training at the Coderspace, and we have lots of migrant women that have very nice skills. They do it very well. They find very good jobs afterwards, but had no background before. So the point here again is, just try it out, actually.
How is it called, the program?
It's the Coderspace. So
coding. Coderspace, okay.
It's within the programs that are offered by the AMS in Linz and in Vienna, actually.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I think what really comes nicely together is that we also see this there is so much more engaging opportunities to gain education, right? Or to upskill yourself. I mean, as we said, right? Coding camps, YouTube videos, and that's the opportunity. But and to overcome his legacy that we have from 20, 30 years ago, where education was mostly known as boring. But it is not, actually. So I think that's the great opportunity. And I wanted to mention the pandemic in this case, because I feel the pandemic, one positive thing that we can take out of this, I feel a lot of people that would have been stuck in a more traditional mindset were somehow a bit forced to adapt to new ways of working. I've seen associations that only used to come together and sit together and have meetings in a very traditional way. They were like, hey, we were doing then video calls, and it worked out really well. And it forced us to learn this digital setup, and now we can do it. And we can think of
new access to education.
Exactly, and we can think of so many more ways of how this can support us. And I feel this is the great opportunity of this time and these years, really.
We have a lot of questions. Before I jump into it, Mahdis, just one brief question. Will it be a question of employee attractiveness as well to offer such programs? I think this will also be a competitive factor on the market.
Absolutely. As an employer, if you don't offer support with upskilling or offer access to these programs, you're not state of the art, let's say. Absolutely. And I also want to mention one point here is the environment you're in. The scholarships that we're giving away with Google, you have a peer group that you have access to. We as the Female Factor, we are a community, we are a network. Mardis' story is incredible, but there are 80 more stories out there with the women that we've been working with. So it really helps if you have access to other people who are doing it with you. You have accountability buddies, because I have in my career signed up to multiple online courses. I haven't finished a lot of them due to time. So you just need someone to be there, to be on this journey with you. And I think that's why communities are so important. That's why we love doing this in the group.
I have a question for that. Miriam Alendes is asking, does the program provide mentorship along the way? And is there support at the end to prepare for interviews and hopefully land the first job? Mentorship? So
the program itself, Christina, that's something that you need to answer. But if you do it through us, so if you register for the scholarship through the Female Factor, you automatically then also have access to our mentoring program, and you also have like CV checklists, and we support you with your career in general if you become part of the community.
And we also provide support with exactly these kind of skills, how to apply in the best way. It's not all part of the Google Career Certificate, but there where Google Zukunftswerkstatt comes in. So we definitely offer these kind of trainings as well.
Perfect. Minister, how many of these training opportunities provided by the government are able for non-German speakers living in Austria?
That's a good point. Most of them, of course, for German speakers, but there is programs that are in English or where you need only a very basic level of German, actually.
Perfect.
There's not that many, because most people that speak English, of course, easily find a job in Austria, because there's many companies that look for English speakers, actually. So that's the reason why we don't have that many unemployed people that are only English speaking.
Same question for Christina and Mahdis. Are all of the trainings available in English? One of the barriers for me to pursuing education in Austria is that traditional uni programs are all in German.
English.
English,
yes.
Okay.
We think across borders.
Okay. Christine, you mentioned that at the beginning, but maybe you can summarize it once more.
Sure.
I'm curious why Google is doing this. And do you do this in other countries too? I know it's not precisely the topic, but somebody is curious.
Of course, I'm happy to answer. So it's a European program, actually. So the scholarships that we give away in Austria are part of a much broader pledge that we've given on the EMEA level, actually, so Europe, Middle East, Africa. And it's really the whole company of Google knows that this is one very important contribution to society at large and to the specific countries and regions as well. Because, as I said in the beginning, right, it's not a topic of Austria, it's a topic around the world, and also especially in Europe. So we need to think this more broadly, and at the same time, we need to think targeted to really one country to really create impact here, because I think that's the polarities that we have to navigate, right? To really create impact for individual people, for careers like Mardis. It's such a great example for that. And also make sure that we create an impact at large.
Mardis, Victoria is asking, is it possible to keep my full-time job while I'm attending the course? What was your experience?
Yeah, I think absolutely. You have 6 months that you can do it, and that would be then if you're doing maybe 6 hours a week. So,
Perfect.
yeah, absolutely.
And obviously it's designed the way that that's possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then how can one choose the best program? Is there any assistance in this regard? Also good questions. Based on what is the decision on awarding a scholarship to an applicant made? So how can you choose the best program for you? Mahdis, do you have any, do you match the needs of the market with the skill requirements of the candidates, or how do you do that?
So usually we have all the information on the different programs on our website, and you can dive deeper into that. And if you have any questions, and if you want to really pose a question that is relevant for your career right now, you can just contact our team and also the Google team. And concerning the question on the application,
what do you base it on, so to say?
You can just apply, and it's honestly, I think almost everyone gets access to it. It's no barrier at all, to be honest.
So we
first
try.
come, first serve, or?
Yeah,
you could say it that way.
That's what we. That's why we have partners, because I mean you have such a good overview on where the demand is, and we try to match the demand more or less. It's not that we want to create a bottleneck where you have to apply and then you're not sure. We want to that's our goal, to match the demand. And that's why we also want to get the word out, because I believe there is hopefully a lot of people who would have advantage out of that as well. And maybe just why do we provide these for job skills? We really try to match this with what's in demand, right? What's the skills and job profiles that we see are out there that a lot of different sectors, companies, industries have a need for.
Minister, I'm not sure whether this is too detailed. In case it is, we'll deliver the answer later. The question is, can the course be done as a part of Bildungskarenz?
That's a good point. I don't know by heart, but that's something that can be applied for at the IMS, and they will tell you whether this is possible.
Okay.
So that depends a bit on the scope of the course. Probably the course alone is not enough, but if you have 2 or 3 courses, it's probably enough. So it's about the scope, and usually at the university it's a bit easier because you get ECTS points, and there is a certain level that you have to reach in the Bildungskarenz. For these courses, this is something you have to talk with the IMS, and they will tell you whether it's enough.
But we've been in contact also with the IMS, and so I think I also cannot provide the correct answer now, but this is something that we also try to have a look at to really match it to the systems in a country.
I think that will be very important. You mentioned that before, that we have a clearer structure in terms of how this is licensed, how you can actually prove what you did. We're talking about individual learning accounts at the European level, so that you have a bit more structure on all these initiatives, and you can actually show to your next employer what you can actually, because your current employer usually knows that. But what, of course, I as the minister want to have is transferable knowledge, and you want to have the chance then to also go to another company and say, look, that's what I can actually.
It's a mind-blowing discussion. I don't think this was the status quo before pandemic, as you mentioned. I think we've had some change.
And there is so much focus, so much more focus on it, which is so important. And this is something and this is the great thing, because it's a European initiative as well. We try to match this with all these taxonomies and systems on a European level. So it fits in there. It's also acknowledged as a pre-skill from the London University of Business. So we really try to make sure that we can that it also matches the systems and the taxonomies that I think are working on, because I think it's also work in progress, and this will be so much more important over the next years.
This is shaping the future. A few quick questions. Is it possible to get a scholarship for more than one certificate?
As far as I know, yes. Yeah.
You're saying yes, Mahdis?
when you get the scholarship, you have access to all 4. So this is also helps you choose which one. So you don't get allocated just one. You don't have to apply for one specific
Oh, wow,
one. You get
fantastic.
access to all of them. And then you can also choose which one you feel like fits you more. And yeah.
How do we apply for the scholarship? Mahdis, maybe for you?
We can send the link. It's femalefactor.global/upskilling, and you just simply apply. That's it.
Perfect. Can I take 3 months of educational leave in Austria for a course? Okay, that's the Bildungskarenz question. We had that. Are you adding new courses? Was somewhere here? Are there plans to expand on the skill areas? I'm interested in DevOps. I guess it will be further developed all the time, the program.
Yeah, and two parts of my answer. One is we provide many more different upskilling possibilities in a lot of more areas than these Google Career Certificates. So I would really encourage you to have a look at Google Zukunftswerkstatt or even beyond. I don't have the current information if we will expand the skills in this Google Career Certificates alone. We will definitely give an update as soon as this is happening, but I would really like to encourage everyone to have an even broader look if one of these 4 job skills does not match so much your expectations.
Mardis, maybe you can answer this. Is there an entry assessment test? Did you have an assessment test at the beginning?
No.
No, so just application?
Yeah, it is meant for you to be able to come in without any previous knowledge. And so
perfect.
this is, but at the end there's tests for you to get the certificate, of course. Yeah.
Great. If I'm not selected for the scholarship, which is unlikely because we have very good partners here that are eager to offer you as many opportunities as possible, but if I'm not, is there a way to attend them in other terms, and how much do they cost if it's not within the scholarship?
Our approach is to offer trainings for free.
Okay. Very good. I hope you like that. And just apply, all of you. Mahdis, how many spaces do we still have free?
Around 100.
Around
But
100.
I know that Christina is generous, so if we run out of the 100, we might be able to get more.
No, we're aiming to match the need. Of course, I cannot promise it, but that's the thinking behind it. Of course, we have a certain amount of scholarships throughout Europe, and we try to match that. And as we're really creating great success stories in Austria, we definitely have room there. And yeah.
Okay. Is there a free joining the mentorship with Female Factor?
So if you want to be part of the mentoring program, then you would need to become a member with the Female Factor. But it's a lifetime membership. You do it once, you're in there for your whole life and career. We're there with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have already completed Google Project Management Certificate. Is Google planning to offer entry project management jobs in Austria? So somebody so do they have a benefit if they do the scholarship of Google
I
to
like
apply?
this question. I like the thinking. And in fact, of course, for jobs that we offer, and you can always have a look at career.google.com. There we have all the jobs available throughout the world and also for the specific location. So have a look. There is some jobs open for Austria. And of course, we also acknowledge the certificates for job applicants there.
Okay. How do we apply for the scholarship? We had that already. Maybe to sum or to wrap up our discussion, what is your call to action? What is your takeaway of the discussion? I think it's important really it was a new aspect to me as well, that we as employers also have the obligation to deal with the topic, to offer our employees reskilling and upskilling programs, and there are partners on the market who do that, be it Google, Female Factor, or the government of Austria. Maybe just to wrap up the discussion and key takeaways of the talk.
My key takeaway is that it's really great, especially on this panel, that you can really feel this will for collaboration on the topic. I think it takes all of us. Everyone has to contribute, be it companies, be it the employers, the people themselves, right, and the government. And it's great that we can go this step forward. And I think this panel showed it very lively.
Mm-hmm. Minister?
There's lots of initiatives. I really like that. I think that many companies, many institutions already are on the forefront on that and will, of course, support it further. I think that's very important. I think we have to we have to succeed in shifting a bit the perception of these kind of reskilling, upskilling initiatives. But I think we're doing a good job. And Austria is actually, if you look at the level of reskilling, upskilling initiatives and programs, actually not at the top of Europe, but in the first third. And I think that's a comforting finding. And I'm seeing these initiatives for me is always a pleasure, and I hope that we have more of them.
And the economy has a perfect partner in you and the government for these initiatives. Thank you for that. Yeah, Mahdis, I will conclude with your final statement. This question, one came up more: is Google certificate without previous education in that specific field enough for the entry-level positions? What do you think? Could you start a job somewhere with this certificate?
Absolutely. That's exactly the message that I want to bring across. It's for any age group. You don't need to be afraid of this. It's such a huge opportunity, and please make use of it. Whether you were with your family for a couple of years out of the workforce and you're coming back, whether you want to get into a higher position in a different department in your existing company, whether you want to switch jobs, it's all for you. And it's at the same time, it's also relevant for employers. You can offer this to your team members. I know, Dejan, that you offered it to your team members, so thanks for that. So yeah, it's just out there for anyone and everyone. And for us as the female factor, it's the reason we wake up every morning and do our job. This is the impact we want to see.
Mardis, final words.
I think just if you feel stuck for some reason, if you don't feel like you have the opportunities that you want, there are so many initiatives that are around. Just find the mentors that you need, find the support that you need. There are really all around you. You're not stuck. You can learn new things. You can find things like the Female Factor. You can find the Google scholarships. You can find what the government is offering to support you. It really is, anything is possible as long as you just keep trying and keep searching for it.
I'm energized and inspired. Thank you very much. This is Shaping the Future. Thank you for all the initiatives, the work that you're doing. Grab the opportunity. We have approximately 100 more scholarships that are waiting for you. And if needed, maybe some additional ones. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for the panelists. And stay in touch, keep in touch. Female Factor, Google, and all the other initiatives will help you design your life and your future. Thank you for being with us, and goodbye.